welcome to the Record Celtic podcast. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted to be joined all the way from Denmark. I've panicked that it is Denmark, isn't it?
Yes. I think so. We're on the go since early doors this morning. We're only just checked in about 10 minutes ago. I think so. We're actually, if you want to see a bit of Danish scenery while it's still kind of light, there you go. We're obviously right in the thick of it here in Herning and Lower Jutland.
Obviously, you guys are out there obviously for the Europa League game, Midtjylland versus Celtic on Thursday, which we will talk about obviously a bit more in depth, but we're still dealing with the fallout from the weekend. I know I spoke to you at Hampden on Sunday, Mick, but Swanee, I've not been able to pester you about the game so far. The big thing is the Auston Trusty fallout. SFA said they're going to explain it and all that, and Rangers are raging. Did you think it was a red card?
I could easily have seen why a red card would have been given, yes. I don't think it was very clever from Auston Trusty, to be perfectly honest with you. I understand the rules, force, that kind of thing. The thing that just I couldn't understand was, why did he do it? Why did he do it? I mean, it was just stupidity, to be perfectly honest with you. He could have been red carded for daftness, to be perfectly honest. Celtic are 1-0 up and are a man up and in control of the game. It just seemed like such a crazy thing to do. Had a red card been administered, I don't think anybody would have argued that much about it. I think it was one of those ones that was never going to be overturned. If it was a red card, VR weren't going to overturn it, and because it was a yellow card, they didn't overturn that either. I think he's a lucky boy.
I think that's the best way to put it, Mick. I mean, I think I agree with Swanee. If he had been sent off, you can't really argue with it. But then on the flip side, people are saying, he kicked him in the head. It wasn't really a kick in the head.
No, that stuff is now, as usual, it grows arms and legs and it's a stamp, it's a kick in the head. I mean, it wasn't that. But it was still a silly thing to do. It wasn't as if it was a challenge for the ball. It was almost, he planted his feet, he'd stopped, and then he flicked about it. That was senseless.
He ran the risk, and listen, I can't even know what I said after the game Sunday. I think I said it was a yellow. I can see why it would have been a red.
Yeah.
And I can see why there's been a slight outcry. But what I do think is that we've seen it through the years, and listen, Celtic and Rangers have both been very capable of doing this. That when they lose an Old Firm game, you get a week of this kind of nonsense. There's a kind of there's an area that they hone in on. That's the reason why the game turned the way it did. Weirdly, the red card actually helped Rangers because we've seen this over the last. This is not just even this current Rangers team, but we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years. This Rangers kind of era, they only play when they're up against it and there's nothing to lose. So when Rangers go 2-0 down against Celtic, they come back and they play and they play brilliant and they win a game. The expectation levels are so low, they play really well. When they go a man down, they're better because there's no pressure anymore. And you've seen it again, they go one each and then the pressure is back on again because then the expectation level change. So the narrative around it is that Rangers lost this game because Auston Trusty wasn't sent off. I think the Rangers got back into the game because they were man down and they didn't get sent off. I mean, weirdly, it allows this narrative to kind of build that it was like they were hard done by. And listen, I think it could have been a red card. I also think the penalty kick is subjective. I thought it was pretty harsh against Tony Ralston. So there's that as well. I also think there's a case that you could say that Derek Cornelius can be sent off for his tackle. I've seen that tackle being sent off a million times in the last kind of 10 years. That over the ball kind of ankle tackle. I'm not saying that it should be red. I'm saying it should be. I've seen them given. Likewise, I've seen the Trusty one given. So there's 3 or 4 incidents in the game that could have went either way and didn't. I think the overall narrative has been shaped by it, as it always is the case. I've seen it. I say both sides are more than capable of putting out the statements and saying we're not happy, want explanations. I've seen it a million times, right? But I think that it sometimes takes away from the reality of the situation. But listen, we'll no doubt be debating it till the next time these two sides meet. But I just think that it's a bit of a diversion, I think, sometimes.
The one thing that I would say is that isn't debatable, certainly in my mind anyway. Celtic deserved to win at the weekend. The best team won.
Yeah, I think they did, Dan. Yeah, I think so. I thought the first half performance from Celtic was excellent. I thought they were by far the better team. Although strangely enough, they gave up 2 or 3 chances, but I thought they were the better team through the 90 minutes. And as Michael suggested, and correctly, I feel it almost
not very often, does it?
No, it kind of spooked coming out a goal up and You know, it's almost that nervousness as if, okay, it's Celtic to lose now, and they didn't really get themselves going again at the start of the second half. Only when it went back to 1-1 that they started getting themselves back into gear, really. But, I mean, I'm saying that. Games for us sits the underside of the bar, the game's done.
Yeah.
That goes in. So, no, I think Celtic were the better team. I don't think there's any debate. I don't think anybody can debate on either side that Celtic were the best team and probably deserve to go through. Well, definitely deserve to go through.
Listen, Celtic had 22 shots on goal, 10 on target, Rangers had 12 and 4. So in terms of chance creation, Celtic were dominant. It's not that, I don't know what, I mean, as you know, I'm a big XG man myself. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the XG was. Expected Gannon. 0 as usual. Don't expect Gannon.
Gannon is a frightening prospect.
Yeah, I expected Gannon later on in the Midtjylland town centre. We had it Herning town centre. And the Midtjylland, the dancing in the streets of Wraith. Herning. I just think Celtic were. I think they got. You're right. I think they got a bit spooked. You know, many times you've seen teams going to 10 men. You're looking for the second goal to kill the game off, but all of a sudden you're getting hit in the break. You're thinking, wait a minute, they've kept 2 guys up front, and they get a bit caught between how. Yeah. Well, we need to keep the back door shut.
It's classic stick or twist.
It happens all the time. It's very difficult sometimes with 10 men. That I think when it told later in the game, the next time. The extra body then comes into play because the legs are tired with Rangers, and the structure goes a wee bit. At one point, they didn't have any midfield players in the park, and Celtic got the control of the ball and dominated that kind of period. But yeah, I think Celtic deserved to win the game. But I think Rangers came out with a bit of credit the way they played with 10 men. But again, I think it's easy to play when the chips are down and the game's up the Swanee, so to speak. So I think Celtic needed it as well, given the fact they hadn't won a game against Rangers for a year practically, 11 months or something, and some of the performances. Listen, I don't think Celtic were rotten in that whole year. I mean, they were terrible at Ibrox when they get thumped. The bad result at Celtic Park when they lost late on. Again, that game was up topsy-turvy, wasn't it? And a couple of draws at Ibrox that were all right. So, I mean, I don't think it's different being getting turned over and thumped every game. But they needed that. I think the supporters needed it as well, didn't they? To get that feeling, and especially in a cup tie when it's all or nothing. Yeah. But I think it's fully deserved, and it's we'll kind of the fallout will continue, I guess. But the reality is, I think they deserve to win the game.
Obviously, the final against St Mirren on December the 14th. Without sounding horribly patronising, I don't think that will be an easy game for Celtic. They're a really good team, St Mirren. But will Martin O'Neill be in the dugout, guys? What's your gut feeling?
My gut feeling is no, and my gut feeling is actually it probably is right for it not to be. I know it's going to sound terribly harsh at the moment, but I just think Martin O'Neill's done it. Martin O'Neill has come in clearly on a sort of, this mission was to get through these 4 games to get to international break. He said it. I've heard such a narrative since Hampden. Well, maybe keep it going and that kind of thing. I just think Martin O'Neill has been able to get a fantastic bounce at the players with his motivation and the way he talks to people. He's just giving them some encouragement. Should add, Sean Maloney has clearly had a massive part to play in this. You could see in extra time, him getting in amongst the players. He's obviously had a massive influence in the coaching thing as well, helping Martin. I just think there was a job for Martin to come in and do, and it was to negotiate the 4 games, get to the cup final, and make sure that things were kept afloat. I think Celtic surely have a plan. I don't think any of us... Look, the Brendan Rodgers resignation thing happened, but there was no new contract signed. Celtic should already have started to have a list drawn up. They should know what they're doing. You're now getting into an international break. That would be 4 weeks from Brendan's departure to the first game after the international break. Celtic should be ready to go for that, I would have thought, and then you're adding another almost month on it for the cup final. So I would say no, but there's a lot of romantics out there who would say yes, he's earned the right to do it, and he's clearly done a great job. Since he's come in lifting people. You only need to look at someone. You only need to look at Dyson Maida on Sunday. Yeah, they look completely different, as if whatever had happened with Brendan Rodgers, whatever was said, whatever we don't know, but he looked back to being Dyson Maida again. Barney Engels, Callum Osmond came in, all these things I'm sure we're going to touch on. So he's done brilliantly. I'm not sure it's a long-term thing, but I've been wrong about millions of things before.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you.
Yeah? Well,
just for the sake of it, really.
Yeah.
No, but I think because for all those reasons you just said, I think he's maybe earned the right to lead him at Hampden. And I also think that, again, for what you're saying, is the long-term succession plan, everyone's known that the Brendan Rodgers was going at the end of the season, which I think has caused part of the schism over the summer, which has led to this period last week. So I think you're right, that the kind of prospects to potential managers for next summer have been in the kind of on the horizon. Do you bring that forward to December, or do you think, well, what's the point? Because we've now got a fairly seamless process.
Here's why I think the point is players starting to switch off because they're thinking Brendan Rodgers isn't going to be here at the end of the season. Martin O'Neill's got a bounce just now.
Yeah.
If it's announced he's keeping it to the end of the season, Celtic a new manager, what happens in February or March? When the players know that he's not going to be there again next season, does the same thing happen again? I think that's too risky.
Yeah, I think it's slightly different. I think it's slightly different because you're dealing with a guy who's 73 years old, and if he says he's going to the end of the season, I think it would have the opposite effect. I think this is probably the guy's swansong. He's already a club hero. Let's give the guy the send off he deserves. I think it would actually be a motivating factor for Celtic players, because it's not like the manager Brendan Rodgers, who's in his prime at 52 years old, is going somewhere else, and you think, well, this guy's on his way out somewhere else. He's going to go into the Premier League. He's going to go to Saudi. He's going to go to Spain. It's basically this is Martin O'Neill's last hurrah at a club that he's already a legend at. I think if I'm in that dressing room, I go, you know what, I'm going to make sure he goes out on the biggest high possible. I think it would actually be the opposite. A majorly a motivating factor. I mean, right away, I think he's done a great job at unifying a group that clearly needed unified, because it was. I mean, for whatever reason, towards the end of Brendan Rodgers' period, it wasn't a happy camp.
Yeah.
The Honda Civic thing will be the kind of postmark to the whole kind of 3 months period, wasn't it? It's at the end of his reign. But you look at guys like, when Arnie Engels the last 2 games has looked every inch £11 million player. He did at times last season.
But any new manager who comes in and says, Arnie, you're fantastic, you're starting.
Yeah.
When you've not been given a start, he's going to get a bounce at the game.
Yeah, completely.
That's happen.
Yeah, but Auston Trusty, a man possessed at the weekend, we know that
he's been constantly left out. I know if you think I'm arguing for the sake of it, but I think anybody that came in and basically said to these guys who weren't playing, you're in the starting lineup. Oh, I think you're tremendous.
True.
Boom, right away. They're buzzing for you.
Yeah, I get that. And I think the change of style and simplifying it has helped them as well. It's given them a fresh impetus, the way they played in the last 2 games. They're a bit more direct, and it just changed. It just freshened up the place. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way they were playing the last 2 years, but it had got stale. Yeah. And they were struggling to score goals. And it seemed to be every week it was always talking about what they haven't got rather than what they've got. Yeah. Whereas, like you say, it's easy for a manager to come in. Martin O'Neill came in and said part of the first thing I said to him was, you're all fantastic players. Yeah. And it's like, they've not heard that for a while. Yeah. They've been told you're a Honda Civic.
You're a Honda Civic.
So I get it. And listen, I get why Brendan Rodgers did that as well. So I'm not putting Brendan Rodgers.
Let me say here now, Martin O'Neill is a Celtic legend and will always will be.
Yeah, no matter what.
There is no doubting that. I just not sure it is the way to go to say, okay, that's you until the end of the season. I'm not sure about that. I
think they've been safe hands. I think Sean Maloney is, quite why he was doing the Celtic Pathways manager job at Parkhead. Yeah, it confused the life at me. The guy who was in the dugout at the Euros for Belgium, managed his own right, get done in it. I mean, get a raw deal at Hibs, a tough job at Wigan when they were practically going bust. Excuse me. Clearly, it was a hard sell for supporters to say, "Here's Sean Maloney's new manager." I don't think it would have worked at a time when there was mutiny in the stands. Anyway, no offence to Sean, but I don't think that would have cut it. And I still don't think it would cut it. With Martin O'Neill in there, it's a great PR exercise for a start, but also it's a guy who's got vast experience in the game, and it's proved to be pretty beneficial.
I mean, it could be a fantastically potent.
I think it's bottom time. That's what I'm saying.
I couldn't agree more. I think that it certainly has taken. Had Celtic lost the semi-final to Rangers on Monday morning, supporters would have been screaming, "Where is the manager? What are you doing? Why are you going back to an old? Why are you doing that? Where is the new manager? Get him in now."
So what happens?
But because Celtic won it, it has now bought the time.
Yeah, but so what happens, right? So what happens is he does his 4 games, right, and during international break, Celtic appoint, I don't know, trendy McScandy, the next up and coming manager, right? And he comes in. Right, and he's a fortnight later. He loses the cup finals, and he's up against it. So,
McScandy out.
You know what I mean? It could be a big hitter. It could be a new name. It could be whatever, right? But he's up against it if he's up in a cup final. Why not let this play out and let Martin O'Neill walk out in the cup final. And if Martin O'Neill loses the cup final, like you say, he's a legend. And he'd say, well, it's not how it wanted to end.
Celtic have to be looking beyond 4 weeks, man.
This is what I'm saying. They've got time to get the right guy.
So
they're not. I don't think there's any rush to go and appoint anyone. I mean, the out of job markets now, I don't think is anything really jumping out really. So you're going to have to go and get a guy on a job, which I think is going to happen anyway. Which becomes a complication as well. I think you look at certain markets, America, Asia, Scandinavia, as I mentioned, their seasons are coming to the end the next few months. You can say to the guy, you know what, take a fortnight off and we'll start you in January the 1st. And by that point, Martin O'Neill might be sitting with a big trophy on the sideboard and he leaves an even bigger legend than he was when he started. And the guy's got a fresh start. I don't know. I think that gives him the space to do that. But I take your point. I'm obviously just playing devil's advocate just because that's what I can see. I think that'd be a nice postscript to Martin O'Neill's story. And I think he would do it. He'd be able to get a job done as well.
Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see on the screen I've got, this is as of 10 minutes ago.
John Swan, we can't read.
Daniel, do you know what? He's don't have a clue what's happening.
and we can't see that wee writing.
I keep telling you.
The font is quite small. If you're listening to this as a podcast,
that's Stuart Baxter.
It's the runners and riders. It's the latest bookies odds for the next Celtic manager's job. This is the next permanent manager. Martin O'Neill is the favourite. Kieran McKenna second at 5-1. Ange still in there at 13-2. Robbie Keane at 8-1. Lee Carsley at 8-1. Knutson at 6-1. Wilfred Nancy at 6. Craig Bellamy at 12. Nicky Hayden at 16-1. I mean, does any of the names jump out at you guys as he's the man? He would be good.
Craig Bellamy, I would love to see in a club job. Only because I watched something with him a couple of weeks ago. I think the way he's galvanised the Wales team, the way the players talk about him, unbelievable. And I watched a thing on a podcast that he did recently, and he was just talking about the game, and it was fascinating just listening to him and the level he's played at. And I think he's really the players, the Welsh players love him, and he just strikes you as one of those guys who just would be brilliant as a club manager.
Also coached at a good level as well. Not managed at a good level, but he's coached at a good level. Yeah. But then again, timing again though. But he's got 2 qualifiers. If he wins these qualifiers,
Daniel only asked me who I would like.
Yeah, but
I didn't say who was going to get.
But again, that plays out on top of the reality is that
it's just been argumentative.
He's out the game. If he wins, they're playing against North Macedonia and the Mighty Ducks, right? So they've got 2 games that should win. So that takes him at the game to at least March for the playoffs.
And I think that's probably that might be part of the reason what's going on.
Do you then wait till after the World Cup? And then what happens if he goes to the World Cup? Forget about it. So you can't wait for Craig Bellamy. Because Celtic can't afford to say, right, if you wait till March, then you lose the playoff. Then what if they win the playoff?
Yeah.
Then they win the final playoff, and then you say, wait a minute, he's got America.
I'll go back to Michael. He just asked me who I would like.
Yeah, but it's not a realistic option right now for Celtic.
Neither at half an M.
Unless is he going to take Wales to America? Potentially. I mean, that's the reality. Is that's probably not going to happen.
We bet markets yesterday. I don't want this to be dated, but with Gary O'Neill being favourite to go back to Wolves, who had ruled himself out of the job, and Russell Marks favourite to go back to Southampton, who was pounded at the door.
I don't think any of the guys in that list are going to go in the job.
Is there anyone, Mick, who jumps out to you? Have you seen a name maybe not on that list?
Another obvious one, by the way, just because of what we saw in with that Bruges team when they played against Celtic and then when they played against Rangers. But it's different. You're coming into a different world, I think, when you come into it needs to be, I'm just talking in terms of coaching. He's a name that's come up, but just Celtic is such a gigantic job. It's more than just being a coach. That's what Celtic are going to have to. People talk about this left field appointment with Ange Postecoglou. Ange Postecoglou had been through plenty and had seen plenty and was no weight behind the ears manager. He was a big man who knew how to stand up for himself. He could cope with all the other things that were going on. I'm sure there's loads of brilliant coaches out there that would just crumble under the weight of having to deal with what you have to deal with at Celtic. So that will be something that has to be considered. And listen, that might go back to Michael's point. I could be completely wrong. Maybe they'll look and say, well, look, man, he's done this. He knows how to handle it. It's no problem. And Sean Maloney can work away in the background, coaching the team brilliantly. He's done it, as Michael says, at Euros and all that for Roberto Martinez. Maybe they'll think that's the way. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I would also be very sceptical. I don't want to be like the masked magician here pulling back the curtain, but any manager who talks about the job isn't getting the job, by the way.
Yeah.
The ones that are batting their eyelids in public are not getting the job because, as Swan is saying, it's a big job. It's a good job to get linked with.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys in jobs will be going, oh, well, you never say never and all that. You know what I mean? It's a big job, that one. They're like, and all of a sudden they get a new contract at their own club, or they bring out somebody else because they're using Celtic to smoke out another job somewhere. So you have to be careful, especially any guy who mentions it. One of the unwritten rules, I think, of this game is if they talk about it, forget it.
Yeah.
It's great to do, and it's interesting, but I always think that's a red flag to me. That, and especially Celtic, listen, the punters can batter Celtic if they like, but they do conduct their business very quietly in terms of managers.
And if anybody speaks publicly or even intimates publicly, you can imagine it be right.
Yeah.
Red pen.
I know. They were badly burned by the Eddie Howe situation as well, and Eddie Howe was down the line, and then the last minute, and it's public knowledge, obviously, and he pulls out, and I think that was a kind of sore one for them because that's not how they tend to conduct their business. And then they pulled out the left field kind of Ange Postecoglou one, which turned out to be a major success, obviously. So I think, so anyone who's flashing the eyelids is usually forget them. Anyone batting the eyelids, forget it.
I tried to do that when I blinded
I know,
myself.
a wee bit actually.
Yeah.
I guess time will tell with that one. But as I mentioned at the start of the pod, guys, you're in Denmark for the Midtjylland game. That's going to be a really hard game, I think. I mean, Midtjylland, we know that they've already won, I think it was 3-2 away to Nottingham Forest. And as you can, hopefully this font is a little clearer. They're actually top of the Europa League, 3 wins from 3.
That's interesting.
So it's going to be a really tough game on Thursday.
Yeah, I think listen, cliche time, cliche alarm, ding ding. But you got away from home against anybody in Europe. It's going to be hard. I mean, it's just how it is. But I think most people are probably quite surprised by the way Midtjylland have started, and also, winning a Premier League ground. I know that Nottingham Forest were obviously a turmoil at the time, and probably still are if you like. But it's still impressive 3-1, to be in the position they're in after 3 games. So listen, we know what they're going to be like. We know they're going to have 1 or 2 technical players, and they're going to have plenty of strength and they're going to be well organised, and we know that. So I don't think it's going to be any shock for Celtic what they're going into, and it's just whether they can cope with it, whether they can handle it. I mean, I don't know what people feel like in terms of Celtic in the league section at the moment, and the sort of importance of the game. Do they need to get something out of this game? I mean, what is the, Well,
they need to win the game because losing at home to Braga means that they need to find the point somewhere else.
Yeah.
So if they wanted, if any ideas, this is a game they probably need to win. I don't think they're anything. I know they've had a good start. I mean, they beat Sturm Graz 2-0. Tel Aviv, I think they beat as well, which is a decent result, but not really put any of the heavy hitters yet. Obviously, Forest, they got them a good time, and Ange was trying to rip it all up, and they knew they were vulnerable. It's a wacky game, wasn't it? 3-2 it finished up. I don't think they'd be scared of it. I seen them against Hibs, and I thought they were all right. They weren't. I don't think they were.
I was going to say Hibs weren't far off knocking them out.
Exactly.
Very close, and I mean the goals that were scored at Easter Road were Waldy's, weren't they?
Aye.
So
I mean, that's the thing. They're minutes away from getting put out.
And it wasn't as if it was the start of the season, and they were slow and getting up. They were up and running. These were the ones at the start of the season. So it just depends how you want to look at it.
They were a few weeks ahead of Hibs at the time.
Yeah, you sometimes get blinded, don't you? Or, like what I'm saying, top of the table after 3 wins, and they won away at an English Premier League ground. But then if you want to use the other hand and say they could have been knocked out by Hibs, then it just depends how you want to look at it. A lot of it's going to have to do with how Celtic play. If Celtic play the way you would expect a Celtic team to play, they're not going to get back to what they were last season against Leipzig and things like that in the Champions League on Thursday night. That's not going to happen. The Sturm Graz performance, the first half against Rangers performance, that could be enough.
Yeah. So
it'll just depend on what Celtic you're going to get.
The problem I think Celtic have got is I mean, I hate to start with the cliche alarm, but when we watched Midtjylland in the summer, they do look like the typical kind of, I mean, a bit like your
ding ding.
But they've got 7 or 8 6-foot giants.
Ding ding.
And then 2 or 3 guys that are technical. That's what I mean. The boy Cho Gi Song, is that what you call him? The Korean player that Celtic tried to sign when Ange Postecoglou was desperate to get him a few years ago, and he knocked Celtic back. But he's been good for them. Proper player, by the way, and a couple others. But the rest of them are the land of the Giants, and Celtic aren't really the most physical. But you're looking at guys like Trusty to come in and be physical, Arnie Engels can do it. I think you'll see Celtic going with the kind of physicality. The problem is, again, they're still missing key men. I mean, Arthur Johnson would have been a big help. I still think he's probably going to be just shy. You look up top, there are obviously issues. I mean, Johnny Kenny's the last man standing. Callum Osman isn't in the squad. Either Shin Yamada, given the kind of the strangeness at the start of the season with the squad list as well. So they're light up top. They're missing key players, so they're up against it in that respect. And physically, I think it's going to be a tough one. So it's not going to be easy, but I don't think they're be scared over it enough.
I was going to bring up Callum Osman, the fact that he's not in the Europa squad, but I was reading on UEFA's website today that every club at this point can replace, perhaps a player that's out with a long-term injury with one new player. So it just made me think, if Carter Vickers out for a long time, maybe swap him for Osman.
Yeah, it's an option.
Well, Aniacho, I suppose, is the other one we need to find out. I think he's closer, isn't he, though? He might be. Apparently he was. Martin Neal again, though. Martin Neal, the master of kind of confusion at times, saying he was quite close to the weekend, and then there's no sign of him. So we don't know. I think he said at one point, just bring in the physio. He will answer the question. But okay, we'll go and get him then. Anytime a manager says that, we'll go get him, man. That would be actually really nice to talk to him. Yeah. So I don't know. We need to find out that one. But yeah, I think he's next on the list, wouldn't you? After his performance from the bench on Sunday, I thought he was really good. It's funny, but I mean, it's not exactly been blasting my way goals for the B team, right enough. I think he's part of the team that lost to East Fife last week. And Kelty Hearts and all that stuff. So I wouldn't think he's been exactly knocking back 40 goals for the B team.
I don't think anybody watched the semi-final on Sunday and thought Callum Osman is the answer to Celtic's issues and attack. But I think what everybody thought was, surely it was worth a few half an hours at the end of the game.
An option.
An option when Celtic were struggling in games. You think of the game at Dundee and things like that when it was 2-0 down. Half an hour. I mean, what we saw on Sunday, it was a different type of game. There wasn't a lot of space to run it, that kind of thing. And we go all technical and start moving salt shakers on tables. But it just looked alert and alive.
The thing was, it wasn't technical at that point. It was end to end, hear him, scare him, and it was a bit more space.
Yeah.
It was
on Sunday. So that suited them obviously.
Up against a 6'5" Danish big centre half, maybe a different issue.
But listen, since and again, please, anybody think when I'm saying this, I'm comparing in any way with Kyogo, but the goal he scored was a ball flashed across the box. He was the one that was alert to that got in between the two centre halves and got his foot on it. Which how many balls have you seen flash across the box this season? Celtic are playing games, nobody there. That chose at the edge of the box in the D. Adam Ida was in the D before he left.
Absolutely,
He was in there. So all I'm saying is, listen, we don't know the politics behind what was going on before Brendan left, but he certainly looked as though he would have been worthy. So
he's a kid that
there's no point looking back for the Celtic supporters anymore. It's just look forward and let's see if he can build on it and see if he can continue to progress and keep making an impact.
It's funny that Osman gets a goal for his 73-year-old caretaker manager, and he was scouted by David Pleat, who's about 173, I think, these days. So a real kind of striking a blow for the experienced campaigners, wasn't it? David Pleat's the guy that recommended him to Celtic, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he raves about him.
I have to say, Dan, Johnny Kenny's two performances since Martin O'Neill's come in, the first half performance against Rangers was outstanding.
Yeah, it was excellent.
Without going overboard, that was a proper centre forwards performance.
Some header as well.
Getting involved in the physical stuff, being prepared to run the channels.
Yeah.
We all know the finery isn't just there, all the touches and all that, but the endeavour, the physicality, and that's a striker, striker's header for a dead ball. That I mean, that's really good.
You're noticing that the way that Celtic play under Martin O'Neill now, it suits him, because I think O'Neill and Sean Maloney have looked at it and thought Celtic don't have a proper. I mean, I'm not being disrespectful to Johnny Kenny, but they've not got a genuine kind of top level centre forward right now. They can link the play up, they can build it and all that stuff. So what Celtic have done in the last two games is, get it forward and get it in the box.
Yep.
And it's almost like mayhem ball. So it's like, get it in the box, fire balls across the face. You might get balls coming back. You get Nygren, Engels, McGregor all on the edge of the box waiting for scraps. You get the centre forward in there, just get amongst defenders and causing problems. It's been a kind of back to basics, kind of like, well, have they got this to do that? So it has to be kind of chaos ball get the winger, get the fullbacks up the pitch, get the balls in the box, get yourself a set piece, and cause a problem at set pieces. But Celtic actually, I mean, people slag off Celtic what's going on. They actually scored quite a few goals with corners over the last kind of year, 18 months, having been slagged off about not going to go for a corner. Engels, again, delivery.
Yeah.
Probably about 80% of his corners are decent, which is a lot better than some.
And incidentally, the header that Benjamin Neekman scored against them, he almost scored the same header against it.
Yeah.
Is Benjamin Neekman, can anybody remember a player who gets into so many positions to score goals? He seems to be magnetised to the ball in the box. If he could finish, he'd be playing with Real Madrid.
So
how many goals would he score if he taken every game? Must have had about 40 chances.
I wrote last week that he said the golden boot's been in the back pocket already.
Nice.
So saying that Martin, he doesn't believe in XG, but Nigger's XG must be about 35 for the season.
But that's a great act to have. And that just get balls in.
He's in that penalty area again. He missed a couple of sitters again at the weekend.
It's unbelievable how many chances he gets.
So he's in that. So I think that's been the tactic. I think Celtic have been trying to stick to the way of playing, but they haven't had the players to do it. I think Brendan Rodgers was listen. You know, he is very kind of single-minded and kind of stuck in his ways sometimes. Kept doing the same stuff, but not the players to do it. Whereas Neil and Maloney are thinking, you know what, we don't have the guys. Just throw it. I'm not saying it's that simple, right? I'm not saying it's as simple as get it in the mixer, but it's no far off it.
Like
no far off it.
Very disrespectful, I thought.
What's the thing? We get in the mixer.
The last little thing about the actual team that I wanted to get your take on, guys, is at left back. You mentioned the Osman goal there, Swanee. It was a great assist from Tierney, brilliant ball across the face of goal. But I thought Sirachi was outstanding at the weekend again. Is he now the kind of first choice, or is it's not quite as black and white as that?
I think I think you've put it spot on. I don't think it is black and white, and I think we spoke about this maybe a month ago. That when Sinachi first came into the team, he did really, really well, and he looked strong. He's getting up and down the pitch. He's clearly he's good in the role. He can come in field. He can take the ball. Whereas the best way to put it is everybody thought Sirachi was being signed as a backup to Kieran Tierney, and the fact that it's now a debate tells you how well Sirachi's done. Some people argue how not as well Kieran Tierney has done, and compared to what people were expecting from Kieran Tierney. But listen, if they can share the load and they can both, contribute in the way that they did on Sunday, they both played a big part on Sunday. And Celtic get so many games that one starts, plays 60 minutes, the other one comes on for half an hour. Next game, switch it. You start, play 60 minutes, the other one half an hour. That's the way to do it, because we saw it during Greg Taylor's tenure, that players were being changed and rotated and things could be altered, and Greg Taylor couldn't be.
Because no
one else to do it. And basically Greg had to play literally every game whenever he was fit, and there was periods when he was getting bummed out and tired, and that was totally understandable.
Yeah.
So if Celtic can somehow find a way to keep it in, listen, like I say, they play so many games. It's not like anybody's going to be sitting in a huff because they're left out for 3 or 4 games in a row.
Especially
they're going to play.
Especially Kieran Tierney, who's had a tough time. I mean, he played 90 minutes for 2 years before he came back to Celtic.
Yeah. He played 3 in a row recently, didn't he?
He has. Kind of felt effects of it a wee bit. Again, didn't felt effects of it. Yeah. I think the word you used there was actually that should have been the chart from the start of the season, the sharing the load. It shouldn't have been Kieran Tierney plus a backup. It should have been 2 left backs to support each other. And I think you're right. I think that, like one guy, Kieran Tierney, if he starts the game, you can say to him, give us an hour of the old Kieran Tierney. And if you're tanked, don't worry about it, because this guy can do the same coming off the bench. And I think that's happened at times. Yeah. And I think in reversal, you can say to Sirachi, who, by the way, he also hadn't played much football for different reasons. But when he came in at the start, he had a bit of time. In his first game, he got like an hour, and he looked like a man who was literally blowing out every orifice. Right? Ibrox, it was Ibrox, wasn't it? He looked like a man who was absolutely burst. So I think you can say to him,
"Go."
Right, exactly. But he can go fix him. I'm not saying. But he say to him, "Go and do your tanking for an hour," and then we can bring in. It happened on Sunday. Yeah. Go and do it. Go and give absolutely everything, full throttle. Well, like the old Ange days. Yeah. And you say to the wingers, "Go and give you an hour. I want you crawling off here after an hour, and we'll replace you with a guy who's equal standing."
And that's what Ange Postecoglou said, wasn't it? Until I get, you won't see the best of my team until I get a bench that can do this, can do what they're doing. And when they did,
and for a year,
it was wonderful.
18 months you had that.
It was wonderful, and it was brilliant.
You had your wingers in the centre forward who were literally an hour crawling off the pitch, and then replacing them with 3 guys that were equal standing. and that's the ideal. But, and you can do that with these two fullbacks. I think they're both. I mean, I think Strachey looks like a player. I think if Celtic have any smarts about them, is be getting him looking at contract stuff in January for long term.
You might have listen.
Because the better he gets, the more harder it'll be to buy him.
And also a World Cup team for next summer.
Yeah.
Huge motivation for him to play and play well. I mean, it could be that both the left backs have got World Cup spots to play for, but Celtic, I think Kieran Tierney would be nailed on in the Scotland squad, whereas I'm not sure Strachey's absolutely nailed on. No motivation for him.
No, but it's not any sense get a contract under his nose pronto. Because it might be the case that the longer it goes, the better he plays, the harder it is to get one done.
One other player, Daniel, I think is probably worthy of a mention, and I know the game was stretched, and I know Rangers had 10 men. I thought James Forrest's performance was outstanding when he came, just so calm. I mean, the bit of work off, when he came inside, just calm, picked a pass and said to Callum Osman, on you go, son, become a hero and go and win the game in the 88th minute. The underside, but it's just so good, James Forrest. And I think through the conversation of the wingers and the end of the Brendan Rodgers period and the arguments, and that's not been brought in, and that's not been brought in, what they doing relying on James Forrest, I was a bit disrespectful to James Forrest. I'm not for a minute that James Forrest should start every game, but James Forrest can still have a big contribution to Celtic. A big contribution.
But again, I don't think. I mean, he started maybe 7 first 8 games of the season.
That's not the way it should be.
Yeah, I don't think it done him any.
Maybe 1 in every 4.
I don't think it done him any. He hasn't started 7 games in a row since about 2019.
I'm not suggesting that. So what I'm saying is he can still have a big impact.
But a bit like what we're saying with Tierney and Strachey, I think you can say to James Forrest, give me an hour of full on old school James Forrest, and then we'll take you off, or vice versa.
I think it'd probably be better the other way around.
I think it'd be better the other way around as well.
You saw the opening game of the league season against St Mirren.
Yeah.
With the last half hour, as soon as James Forrest came on, Celtic automatically more dangerous. I would think probably rather than starting, I think he'd probably come on.
I think you'd be better at him that way. So obviously the guy up against is slightly tiring as well, probably. Yeah. So, but
I think he can still have an impact, Daniel, a big impact.
It's over this. They need to take someone on that side.
Yeah.
And he's always worth having around, James Forrest. Dyson Maida, I thought, played well in that role. It looked like back to his old self. I don't think he's a problem playing that role, Dyson Maida. I think they're probably anybody. He's playing the same way no matter what. Somebody's can't work out what his best foot, because both of them are a bit ropey sometimes, aren't they? You never really know. He can hoof the ball at the park with either foot. Or score a goal or a cross. I've been a bit disingenuous to the player of the year, but you know what I mean? He's a bit unpredictable with either foot. I mean, I'm not entirely sure.
A bit unpredictable.
I mean, what would you say would his best one be? So he can cut down, he can go either way. So I don't think that's a big issue really. So he might be there for the time being.
Just before I let you go, guys, I know I'm asking you how long a piece of string is, but do you think Celtic will get a result on Thursday night?
Do you know? See, they'll get a result, whether it's positive or negative. It's like
there'll be some result.
That phrase, well, you get a result no matter what. It can be win, lose or draw. You get a result. You know what? I don't think they'll get beat. I don't know if they'll get the win they need to get back into the mix. Because they need to find points now. They've still got Roma coming up, and Feyenoord's a stinker. So they need a win, but I think they might get a draw. I don't think they'll get turned over. I don't think they will. It's a kind of a different test. I think Neil and Maloney will quite enjoy actually. I don't think there's that much pressure, because I think now this is not really the priority. I mean, listen, I shouldn't really say that given the fact that they're paid to come and watch the game here. This is the biggest game of the season, Swanee. I just don't think it's that the priority really. I think they can get out with a kind of another performance. I think that people will take that. And then,
I think that's the key. Keeping the momentum going. I think that's the key for Celtic. Whatever happens, listen, nobody wants to be. If Celtic were to play well and have an unfortunate 2-1 defeat or something, it's not a calamity. I think they've just got to keep moving in the right direction.
This performance, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just show that you've still got that intensity and still got that threat that's been there the last couple of games. I think if you compare where Celtic were at Dens Park and Tynecastle to where they've been against Falkirk and Rangers, that it needs to be the latter. Has to be. I mean,
Martin Neil famous. I mean, I'm trying to think of some amazing away wins in Europe. Right enough, Liverpool away, Blackburn away, on that run. Didn't win Stuttgart.
Did they not? Oh no, they were winning 2-0.
Technically, the game was done early on. But no, actually, technically won the game. It was the same, wasn't it? So never won away.
So he was in the team.
Oh, my goodness. I
can't believe you're harking back to some reference point to Thursday night.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about for the Martin O'Neill European story. I mean, obviously, Martin O'Neill is so synonymous with great European nights for Celtic. Would beating Midtjylland be up there with them? Of course not, but it'd be another moment to add to this collection, wouldn't it? But I think he's got his work cut out in terms of the squad and the challenge they face. But you never know. Nothing to be scared of, really.
Well, whatever happens, we will be here to cover it all on Record Sport Online and the Record Celtic podcast. But for now, guys, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Dan.
No worries. Catch you again soon.
And thank you very much to you listening or watching at home. We appreciate it. And we'll be back next week. Cheers.